to the Arts Commission meeting of December. We have a number of guests this evening. I believe we'll be joined by, Terry Moore is already with us, Carol Alt. Members of the Archwest Ad Hoc Committee, maybe just watching. Emily Beveridge, I believe, is joining us, and we'll see if the mayor pops in. The first thing that I need to do this evening is to ask for a change in the agenda. A little puzzling because Chelsea needs to go first and we don't, there she is, okay. So I move that we change the agenda to allow Chelsea to speak first on the Archwest Ad Hoc Committee and the policies, as she can only be with us a short time. All those in favor?
Oh, you need a second.
Oh, yes, a second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Chelsea, you are on.
Thanks, Carol. Sorry, my internet, of course, went out, so I hope that the data plan will keep me going for a hot second. I missed the first part of this. Am I talking about the Friends of Arts West Committee?
You're talking about Friends of Arts West and the policies.
Okay.
So on both of those in time for you to go to what you have to go to.
Yes. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys a quick update in regards to the Friends of Arts West. After our discussion this coming Monday, because of the holiday, both holidays, both Veterans and Thanksgiving, we were not able to meet as often as we wanted to in between AMAC meetings. And so we do have a proposal, but we don't have it fully formed in the sense that we don't have a paper document to give to you all. Our timeline is that by Wednesday, January 6th, we will be sending out the full proposal to all AMAC members for a review, for questions and comments. We would like any questions or comments to be sent to the committee, which you can go through me prior to January 13th, which is the Sunday before our, Sunday, January 10th, which is the Sunday before our Wednesday AMAC meeting on the 13th of January. So we will have that full proposal. We would, again, like those questions and comments prior to the Sunday before our January meeting. So that way we may prepare any answers and address any comments that you guys have. So just to give a little bit of background in case anybody's new tonight, this ad hoc committee was tasked with exploring the possibility of forming a nonprofit 501c3 for Arts West. Based on the discussions, the experience with Arts West and other nonprofits, the committee proposes to form a nonprofit which will be managed by a board that will manage the facilities and programs related to the Arts West facility. The management board will provide advice and counsel to the program specialist. The proposal will also include a partnership with the city to continue the maintenance of the facility and provide a salary and benefits to the program specialist. Of course, all of this is under negotiation, but that is what the committee has decided is the best course forward. So that's, I just wanted to give you, that's the heads up. We'll give you the full proposal in January. So that's all I have right now for the Friends of Arts West. If you do have any comments or questions at the moment, not right now, because of course I'm on a time budget, but I would be happy to meet with anybody individually, or you are welcome to email me. I'm sure everybody has my email address already. Next thing is the AMAC policy review. Of course, oh, hey, my internet's back. Woohoo! See if I can figure this out. So one of the top of the thing, I wanted to talk to Liz about her request at the very first page of the public arts policy. I changed the two little things that you suggested, but then the other one was the under the second main heading, the City of Athens, Ohio Public Art Program, number 1, goals. And so I am of the notion to change what you recommended to make it the goals of the public art program are to promote public art to enhance, et cetera, instead of what it currently is, which says the goals of the public art policy. So the recommendation is to change policy to program. Does that work for everybody?
I don't know if there are legalities involved in the wording. Sometimes there are, but we'll find out.
Okay. Okay, and then the next big thing was there are a lot of bits and pieces within the policy that that we are not really sure who is tasked with really doing it. Carol noted several. And so my request is to have a meeting with somebody from the city just so that way we can clarify things and figure out, is the city doing this? Great, we will make note of that. If AMAC needs to be doing this, what is the best way and what's the next steps to make sure that we accomplish everything within this? Most of it is like doing reviews of the art that we have, like who keeps records of everything, who keeps records of agreements, things like that just need to be clarified so that way we can all move on to the next thing to look at. And then the other thing, look at 3 point. Oh, the other thing was that Carol recommended under section 3 of the artwork selection process, under 3.2.4, originally it said inform AMAC of the panel's recommendation in writing, explaining the reasonings. Carol suggested to put and include in minutes. And I am assuming, Carol, that I think we're getting hacked by somebody.
Yeah,
I saw that.
knocked them out.
The AMAC minutes is what
Okay.
I'm referring to. Yeah.
That is what I assumed. And so I put this recommendation, I had added to this 3.2.4, this recommendation must be included in the AMAC minutes for record keeping purposes. If that works. Or just say this recommendation must be included in the AMAC minutes. Pardon?
That is simple, straightforward.
Simple and straightforward. I love simple and straightforward. Let me change that for a hot second. And then lastly, under the selection process, there is this whole section on the De-Assession of city-owned artwork. And so I am curious to know if anybody has any issues with me making that a completely different section, because it's not really part of a selection, but it's once everything is selected, but it has extended its life. Now we are de-assessing it. And so that was one of my notes. Does anybody have an issue with that?
No.
No. Awesome. Okay. So I will go ahead and do that. Is there, because I'm on my phone, I can't see everybody who's here at the same time. It looks like Andrew, you're here.
I knew you were going to say my name. happy to meet with you and discuss where things should land. If you can send me ahead of time when you get a chance an outline of what those questions are,
Yes.
we can make some determinations ahead of time and figure out. I think most of it's primarily, if I recall from the last conversation, it's mostly housekeeping related items, if I recall.
It is. Yeah. But that would be very helpful if Andrew can answer where it is that the storage of those pieces of information rest. Anything else that we can talk about this later in the agenda a little bit too, but anything else that you need to specifically ask Chelsea before she leaves? My suggestion is that if there are commissioners who have not gone on to the Google Docs and read these policies, that you do so and see if you have additional comments on them. They've been around a long time, and there are a couple places where I said, oops, we don't do that. And it's something that we're actually charged with. So I think that would be of great help.
Chelsea, thank you for doing this. And as well, thank you for the work and putting together the committee to look at the 501c3.
Oh, I'm just on the committee. I did not put it together. So,
Well, but you're still reporting out and you're participating. Anyhow, thank you.
you're
Is
welcome.
participating as a representative of AMAC. Jeff, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. I just wanted to remind folks that since a lot of this is, public record, you're going to have some kind of public record retention policy of how long to keep documents, when to dispose of documents, what documents have to be kept forever, what documents can be disposed of immediately, but something in writing in a book on a shelf so that if this at some time an auditor comes through and says, let me see your retention policy, pull it off the shelf and say, here it is, this is what we do. So just remind you that, the city's had to go through this several times in different departments, and it's really not that big of a pain. It's just, come up with a little procedure and just follow it, and that's it. Andrew knows what I'm talking about.
We actually have an outline for the creation of those things and a records retention committee that meets, and Debbie Walker, the clerk of council, is probably the best resource when it comes to those items. But we typically have those meetings twice a year to review records retention schedules and move things where they need to be.
Yeah.
So we can have further discussion about that offline. I'd be happy to describe that and get people in touch with the right resources.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up to make people aware, that's all.
I assume from that our records, the things, what we do, our inputs already are part of that record.
That's
Right?
correct.
Yes.
Yes. Everything that you do is part of the public record. These meetings are held permanently. So we have old file boxes, and now more recently, we keep the videos and the meeting minutes that Josh has put out. You can find those online and they're publicly accessible, but we keep a digital and a permanent copy of all of that information. In fact, I've had to go back through with the Planning Commission, for instance, to the early 90s on a case recently. So sometimes you have to dig pretty far back to find information, and we're thankful that we've got pretty good record keeping with the city.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it will be helpful for us to have in our policies, or whatever we're calling them, where the things are, so that somebody looking through our records will know that we know.
Yes. Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so
Great.
Chelsea, you're officially excused.
Thank you very much, Carol. And happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
We could actually see each other in person, but you know, 'tis the times.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Chelsea. Happy New Year.
Zoom does it. Zoom is our holidays. Okay, so what we will do now is go to the top of the agenda. So Jeff or Andrew, is there anything under the heading of administrative updates?
Well, in terms of legislation before council, I can't think of anything that's going on right now other than we're trying to figure out how much money we have left in our budget.
Right.
Yep. I would like to mention, related to budget and art outside the box, I don't want to get ahead of the agenda, but it seems like almost everyone that had a contract that I've at least seen, if not have signed all the contracts. There's a deadline to get that all through by the end of the year. So I think I signed one yesterday, but there might be one that's still kind of hanging. I don't recall, but that is in progress. The second follow-up to that is we did include in the budget for 2021, and this was something that the mayor wanted, was the art outside the box, that we do the install this coming year. So that was budgeted for and was part of the overall package. So we do expect to see that happening and seeing those installations progress.
Okay, so that actually is not on the agenda as written, but that's an important point. There was at the last meeting, and it's reflected in the minutes, that there was still one outstanding artist that had not submitted their official artwork. So Kelly, do you know what's happening there?
Actually, I do not. That's Anne's department. She's the one who's been speaking with the actual artists.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll contact her and ask her if she knows. Okay, so moving right along, next is our minutes. You all received them. Hopefully you read them and thought about them deeply. Is there anyone that has questions or corrections or something that needs to be added to the minutes? If not, might I have a motion to accept the minutes of the November meeting as written?
I motion to accept the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, Scott. And all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Well done, Josh. Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is our guest. Carol Alt is here just to talk a little bit about this, the mural discussion for 42 West Carpenter, and a little added piece of information. When Paul Logue was a student, he lived there. So just a little add-on. So he was quite excited about the whole concept of having a mural there. So Carol, if you want to tell us a little bit about where things stand, that would be great.
Well, Keith Wild has agreed to do the job, and we met
sat on the wall across the street from 42 West Carpenter for about an hour one day, just chatting about ideas and how far to go. And Paul had mentioned that perhaps we would want to include the property owner uphill and downhill as well. And I have a little bit of a personal issue trying to make this a group think and decision on a mural and getting stymied and not being able to get one going. And so as Keith and I were chatting, we thought, well, what we would do is come up with a concept for 42 West Carpenter and then go ahead at that point and share it with the other two property owners to see if they would like to be able to go with the same concept or something that would blend into theirs in either direction. But at least this way we know one mural is going to get done. Last week, Ben Stoltz fixed the stairs that the edges were all crumbling, so that part of it is ready to go. Obviously, painting can happen until spring. So Keith, it's been about 2 weeks ago, emailed me some quick little concept sketches. We talked about them a little bit. I've not heard any or received any new sketches, so I really can't tell you what it's going to be about yet. As soon as I get some more firm ideas from him, I would be happy to come back before this committee and share it with you and get your input. Just rest assured that it's going to be tasteful. It's probably going to be colorful because I like color and I like movement. I like dance. So, it might kind of have some of those concepts. It might be just a little funky to fit in Athens. So, questions for me or comments?
Or thoughts, or just...
Sounds great to me.
My input is great. For several years, people have been talking about that space and how please, please, please get a mural on there. But it was private property. And so I think that people will be elated that we're moving forward on this and that the property owners are taking ownership of the project. So I think that's wonderful, and it's great that Keith is on board as well. And we appreciate you joining us, Carol.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And like I said, I'll keep you updated as I have more information, but I look forward to having a really cool mural up sometime this summer.
Yay. Okay.
And when the property owners on other side see our really cool mural, they're going to want to jump in. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. See ya.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is an Archwest update, and Terry is prepared to talk to us about Archwest and what's going on. And despite the fact that COVID's kind of a mess right now, there's great things on the horizon. So Terry, the floor is yours, or the square is yours.
Thanks, Carol. Hello to everyone. It's good to see you. I spoke with Carol earlier in the week, answered a few questions that I told her I would follow up on today. One of the questions is, when is Archwest opening? I wish I could give you a definitive date as far as when all of our activities and services will be provided, but that's just not possible with the state we're in with COVID. But as planned, we plan to open January 4th with the hours of 2 to 6, Tuesday through Friday. In those offerings will be gallery shows. And speaking with the program specialists, we decided to forego January show and focus on February for the Love of Athens, which would start February 12th. And then March would be the cat art show. Carol, one of your questions was how this is going to be released. I think I mentioned social media platform, but we will do a press release. Emily's comfortable having that pulled together. Of course, in the COVID climate, so to speak, we want to craft the message so it's not what we can't do, but what we can do, because there's a lot of contingencies and things that we have to have in place. As far as rentals, we won't be offering rentals per se, but we recently opened the facility for a print and plant exchange last weekend, and then it continues this weekend. Again, case by case, and we're forwarding those requests to the health department once we've vetted it on our end. So that's how we're going to manage rentals. Afternoon arts, we have the model in place. We are at the mercy of what's happening with the schools, so to speak, for that program. And we don't have a release date for that. We will be offering a substitute type program called Crafternoon Arts. And that'll be 1 day a week at Archwest with a registration capacity of 9 and a possibility of increasing that through virtual programming to 15. So that's the plan with that program moving forward. Musical lending library, that'll be open 2 to 6 Tuesdays and Thursdays by appointment. We will subcontract out the oversight, care, tuning, and instruction for the instruments. We've Emily's reached out to Tessa and just hasn't had reply yet, but we're pretty sure that we can put that in place as well. Other than that, reopen discussions with WOUB as far as live from the Purple Stage. Emily will be reaching out to them to start those conversations again, working towards April Fool's Day, Athens Revival Show. We're going to continue the love letters to Athens with the Athens Poet Laureate, Zoom readings for Valentine's Day, and then Valentine's weekend will be a print and plants sale comparable to what we're doing now this coming weekend. As far as facility updates, projects that have been ongoing is the fiber project. We're pumping the brakes on that a little bit. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and the general consensus was to have a consultant to meet with a consultant to determine overall what would be best citywide. Do we have anything do we have everything in place from a planning and execution standpoint for the fiber project citywide, with Archwest being at the priority. So I know David Dudding's working through that, as well as Jessica Adine. They were identifying a consultant, and I think there's been conversation with the consultant. So that's going to continue to move. That was the only not hold up, but just kind of pumping the brakes a little bit to ensure that we've got everything in place for the project for the city as a whole. So with that said, it's not likely that the fiber will be in place early January. But we do have connectivity that we have a good Wi-Fi hotspot through the winter months because the leaves don't have trees. But likely February is going to be the month that fiber connectivity pushes back to, and I can continue to update as we know more. I think we've got another meeting next week. Along with that project, we've needed to do some electrical upgrades because we've had equipment relocation at Archwest. So we've had Cal Electric in the building, and we're moving some of the server equipment to a downstairs area. So we've had to have electrical upgrades there, and that's where the fiber will come into the building. We've priced out equipment purchases for cameras, screens, and mounts for recording and filming. That'll serve the Crafternoon program for the virtual programming. We anticipate buying that the first of the year. Other improvements, the installation of the permanent ramp to the stage. We can thank Andrew's team for moving that along rather quickly. Waxing and sealing the floors. We've had the new floors put in, and that was something that we've needed to do before we have heavy use again. Other items that we're reviewing as a department is Archwest user fees and rates, with the objective to cover our cost and look at cost recovery as far as direct and indirect costs. That's it. I'm open for questions.
Come on, guys. Questions. Well, I have a question. Haven't the fibers started to be put in? I thought they'd been working over there.
So as I understand it, and I'm gonna defer to Andrew at some point. He's down there where all the conversation is. I get the secondhand news. As I understand it, the meetings I've been in is that through some of the projects that are happening with EPW, that the conduit for certain fiber locations has been laid. The money has been allocated. Andrew, take it away.
So we look at this in two parts. The first part is the infrastructure to support the fiber, and Zayo is the company that the city's working with for that infrastructure. So you may have seen on various streets these giant spools with multicolored tubes, and contractors pulling up sections of sidewalk and streets and stuff. That's part of that infrastructure piece. The second piece, the part that we're having to think about more holistically, is the actual pulling the strands, how that interconnection works and where it needs to go for the last, what we call the last mile piece. And then once we have the fiber in place, it has to be supported through an ISP, a service provider. So there's multiple conversations that are happening to coordinate it all together. When we first looked at this, specifically for Archwest, we realized that we have bits and pieces of all of these, but in order for it to work the way that we need it to across the board, we have to look at it from connecting specifically all of the city assets. So think fire stations, the Engineering Public Works Department, code, all those different spaces. And in fact, when we built the pool, we installed fiber conduit and connected to the wastewater treatment plant. So we have parts that have been started, but now we've got to actually put it all together. And that's kind of where we are right now. So it's not so much that we're stopping the progress. We're just making sure that we're doing this in a way that we're pulling the right number of strands, that we're connecting all the things that we need to connect. There's a difference between needing to pull 24 and 48 strands, and I'm not super, involved in understanding how all of that works, other than we have to make sure we've got the right size conduit in place and all of these things. So we're really close. We're just working on the interconnection piece now as the primary concern. Once we get it to Archwest, how do we get it from there down to the street garage? And how do we get from the street garage over to the Habitat House? We have some naturally, we can think about where those go, but to get those to all connect and as David Duddy would say, to get it to light up So that's kind of where we are with things right now.
Wow, that's a lot. I don't know why anybody would have thought that could be done by January, but that's okay. Okay, any other questions or comments concerning Archwest or Terry's report? And thank you so much for coming. I sent to Terry in an email, sometimes I feel like we're kind of disconnected somewhere, and it's very helpful for you to be here with us and to tell us what's actually going on.
Certainly, Carol, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And where does the ramp stand? How long is that going to take to have it up?
I want to say that it is 95% complete. And again, Andrew's team was responsible for that install and making the modifications. So Andrew may have more of an update on that.
That's pretty close to the full update there. We pulled that up on the priority list and made that a higher priority, especially with the building being temporarily vacant. That gave us a chance to really work under the stage and make the connection. When you put in something like that, you have to make sure that the support, when you get on the stage, will support, what's happening with that, especially when you're taking out a section of stage to get it to build in. So my understanding is that we're pretty much done with that at this point. There might be a couple of cleanup pieces, but when I looked at it last and was over there, the skirt's back up. It's been anchored. I was able to walk up and down it and stomp around and all that kind of stuff. We did a little electrical work underneath the stage while we were there. We recognized that with making some adjustments, we could pull out a couple of the outlets that were kind of deep under the stage and move some things to make it more accessible. Because the front portion of the stage was an add-on later. So we built all this stuff and then added onto the stage and kind of pulled all that out to make it cohesive. So it looks pretty good. I think the last piece would be the ramp is shiny aluminum. And if you think about stage lighting or event lighting and those kinds of things, it can be distracting. So the question now is, how do we not make it so shiny? We can paint it, but we want to make it look good and make it look like it's part of the overall infrastructure. So I think that was the last question that came up. It's all usable now, but that's the last little piece.
And
Does it get like traction tape? Do you know what I mean? Like how you'll see that it sort of feels like almost sandpaper. Well, the strips going up, or is it not needed?
It's it was ribbed. It's the ramp itself. It's got the traction built into it. I don't recall there being
a need
tape down or a need for that.
Okay. I just didn't know if that could sort of diffuse some of in some ways, but then you still have, it may draw more attention to it because now you've got a shiny thing with stripes. So,
I certainly think that the ramp is going to make the space look different. And so people that are used to using it the way it was or whatever, there's going to be a learning curve on using the space. It's not a tiny ramp.
It's not, but we did our best effort to make it blend it into the stage. We inset it in actually further than what I anticipated originally. And if you are looking from the audience at the stage, it would be audience right, stage left. would be the location of it. So
Right.
tucked off the side. If you looked at, we had a temporary install at one point for an event where it was down the middle, because that's really the only place we could have put it at the time, and that that really stood out. This was also a priority item from the Disabilities Commission. They identified having access on the stage and having opportunity to use and perform as something that they wanted to see. So from my understanding of talking with Paul Logue, who attends that meeting, they were very pleased with Arts, Parks, and Recreation for making that a priority as well.
Were you able to keep the piano on the stage?
So yes, I crawled under the stage. We have our buildings maintenance crew that were there. I was able to kind of work my way underneath, and we evaluated what the stage condition looked like and what the supports looked like. And the back left portion of the stage actually is probably one of the thicker sections. That I recall that Dan Denhart assisted with the build originally, and I think most of you know who he is and his skill with set building and design. He built that pretty stodgy. So it's more than able to handle the piano, and we found a really good location that's reinforced in the back left.
Oh, that's great.
Does the ramp, so it reduces the actual usable space of the stage then, is that correct?
Well, a little bit, but not as much as you would think. And that's primarily because of the way the stage was designed with that addition, which is kind of a, half of a hexagon, so it's got a front and two sides. We basically chopped off that little corner and squared that. So it actually uses up space that was not usable before.
I see.
And when we set that back, it really doesn't take up any more space than what was usable from before.
Okay.
As far as the paint goes, I would assume the biggest issue is paint that would adhere to the aluminum.
Yeah.
Not easy to come by, but there must be something somewhere.
You could powder coat it, but that might mean it needs to be deinstalled to be powder coated and then put back in, and it's expensive. Yeah.
I doubt that's going to happen. But yes.
You can get paint that's designed specifically for metal. Like auto repair shops have paints that are for engine blocks and things, and engine blocks are aluminum, and that paint lasts for years. So I don't think you're not going to paint the treads. What you're going to paint would just be that parts that are visible. So there'd be almost no wear on it. Does that sound right, Andrew?
Yeah, the handrails, the sides when you're sitting in the audience, what you see. I don't recall whether the finish on the tread section is matte or not. I'd have to look at that again, because the concern would be, if there would be a glare. I really don't know, but I think you've got a great idea with looking at engine or automotive type paint. We just want to make sure that it matches, our uniquely colored stage.
Oh, that's not a problem. You can have automobile paint blended, mixed, matched any way you want. It's just like house paint. Guys who and ladies who really love restoring old cars and putting them back together, they come up with color combinations that are just phenomenal. Glossy, matte, any way you like it. I mean, it's just like putting paint on a canvas almost. In fact, in some cases, I prefer using it than tube paint. Smells better.
Okay.
Thanks for the recommendation. I appreciate that.
All right, moving on to our ongoing projects. Friends of Archwest, we've already discussed. So we're to the mural at the community center. Beth?
I have no updates at this time.
Oh, okay. Well, that was easy.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes. And I didn't include here the music festival. Kelly, you and I talked about that briefly. Scott and Kelly, is there any comment on that?
The only, I don't really have an update for it yet because, again, everything is so up in the air right now in terms of what we'll be able to do and then just, trying to fund it all depending on the window that we have. I feel like we're going to have to wait until, this is just arbitrary, I guess, but like March to be able to say if we think it's doable. The only thing that I was thinking and what I wanted to mention last time was I did receive, this is not that important, but I did receive that email about the banner that we always get, above the
Right.
And so I was thinking, should we just go ahead and reserve one just in case we do something?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and just do what I did before with that, and I'll report back and let you know that that's been done. Again, it's. I think it'd be great. Of course, I want it to happen for sure, but right now, obviously, we can't say we're going to do this for sure. So we can do something, but that's all that I have really.
Scott, to that point, as the person that collects those requests for the administration and then sends those to city council to legislate street closures, at the moment, I don't have an intent to send anything to city council within the first quarter of the year related to special events and those kinds of things until we have a lot more clarity with where we stand. We don't want to prematurely go through that process
Sure, yeah.
just to pull those back. But at the same time, from a budgeting standpoint, the administration did put in a request, which was the same as last year, to
Wonderful.
support that event. So that was part of the budget package that we sent to City Council.
That's great. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I figured if anything, we should at least get a loose hold on the weekend that we want, because everybody else will probably be doing the same. I'm imagining people are starting to at least kind of pencil their name on the calendar or something, right?
Especially because that is about when people are thinking things might start being more normal.
Right.
So everybody's going to be after those dates.
Right. My intent is to hold in pattern the events that have in the last year had requested certain weeks and weekends for different things and put those into a holding document. We're just not going to push those to City Council until we're more comfortable with where we stand numbers wise and that it is a safe thing to do. Obviously, most of those events that are happening, the intent is to draw a large crowd of people to all, come together and celebrate. So again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I do have the schedule from before, and my intent was to hold that and then reach out to each of the different groups on a rolling basis. This one's slightly later in the year. It's toward the end of summer, so we have some more pressing ones, specifically International Street Fair and some of the early events. Now, obviously, some of those are coordinated with OU and what they have going on, but that's kind of where we stand with things right now.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is business specific to the commission. We've already discussed the policies a bit. Please do take a look at those. And the other is the update to 2021 special projects that we've been kind of tossing around. So what I put on the agenda is if somebody had said they would do something, I would put it on here and see if it's gotten done. So first of all was the walking map. And Josh, you had said you would contact Nancy Stevens. Where are we?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to contact her yet.
Okay.
And, felt bad sending an email to a professor at this time. So I will reach out to her after the semester's over. But I do have an update on the Governor's Art Award. Can we, since that's something,
Okay.
you want me to talk about that?
Sure.
So I reached out to Katie Monahan, who runs it, and Donna Collins, and they were very excited to hear from me and from AMAC. They said that our application for the Governor's Arts Awards was very high performing in both 2019 and 2020, and they want to see us apply again. They made clear that they have not opened nominations for 2021 due to the pandemic.
Right.
But they did send me some informational videos and some advice that I can go through and present to AMAC when we get closer to that date. I can then, work on the application. We can get the letters. I can bring a full application to AMAC before it's due, so we can all review it and proof it and make suggestions. But she did want to emphasize with us that they really appreciate our narrative and what we bring to arts in Ohio, and she wants us to keep applying. She didn't say it, but the undertone was rejection is a part of life. Keep applying. All right. So I think we're in a good place, and they're very well aware of us, and they were happy with what we presented so far.
Okay, sounds good. So what I'll challenge you all with is next meeting in January, January 13th, come with something new that you would like to see included in the presentation. Not totally new to us, but something that hasn't been in our past presentations. Josh, is the presentation or the application in Google Docs?
It might be, but it would probably be easier if I just sent it out to everybody. Is that
Okay, that would help, because I'd like us to be taking a look at it and thinking, well, we've never mentioned such and such, and we've been doing that forever. So I think that's great. And some of these looking forward things, certainly the fiber optics thing through the whole city is just so exciting. And the fact that Archwest will be connected to that and have some capabilities that we've really not had before, that's outstanding. And I think that needs to be in there. And all these murals that keep coming up, we're going to be one of the mural cities of the world before you know it. So that's, Josh, you get it out to us. The rest of you, please take a look at it so we can get started on that. So the one other thing that we mentioned last time, Steve mentioned it, and it was trying to see if we could come up with an idea of a memento similar to the concept of a key to the city, but it doesn't have to be a key. It could be a treasure chest. It could be, something totally different that could be artist produced and presented to special guests to the city. Kelly and I talked about this a bit, and Kelly suggested that we put together an ad hoc committee for the concept and perhaps get out an RFP for artists to make suggestions of what might be able to be created. Now, cost is something I don't know how that would work. I assume that the city would pay for the materials for said object, but paying an artist as well might be part of the question. But thoughts from you?
Wasn't Steve's suggestion that this key to the city would be something that is very special to give to very honored guests of the city and so forth? So it's not something to be mass produced or anything like that. Is that correct?
It is, but I would say there would probably be several presented a year. So
okay.
Not like one or two either, but it might be something, and this was something I mentioned to Kelly too, it might be something that could be produced on a 3D printer.
So when you're talking about expense, it seems to me that the AMAC's role is to potentially, like you're saying, get an RFP out there for concepts and design and so forth, and then perhaps make an award like we do for some other things. But then any other cost for production, then the city would incur, like directly as the city, right? Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
Just a question about what would be appropriate to pay the artist and where that would come from. So part of the question.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kelly, thoughts? Kelly?
Yeah, I think that it could be all kinds of different, I mean, you know, with all the different artists that we have in a community, I think they're going to come up with some great ideas once we get it out there. And I guess cost is going to be relative to the item, whatever is chosen.
Right.
So it might not be a terribly expensive item, but, you know, we definitely do want to pay the artist for their time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Well, yeah, speaking of expenses, if you're going to go to the city to have them pay for the costs, there's going to have to be some form of budget set aside somewhere under some fund line for that to be possible. We just simply can't pull money out of the general fund and say, write a check for an artist and not really have a good way to account for it. So
Right. I understand that, but we certainly followed this sort of procedure on
Sure.
other projects. And the concept, the question came from the mayor.
mhm.
And so I think that
Right.
like for the actual production of the items, I don't think that would be in question. Is there somebody that this totally appeals to and would like to start putting together a committee, which should be of 4 people plus the commissioner, which was one of those things in our policies that I said, we haven't been doing that all the time. So I think we need to pay more attention to that. So volunteer, somebody that wants to do this?
I won't spearhead it, I don't think, but I'd like to participate. I don't know if that's an option.
You mean start putting together a committee, or what is it that, no. Well, I'll tell you what, Beth, you can call other commissioners and say, don't you want to do this? Big plan.
I feel the same way. I don't want to spearhead it, but I will be on the committee.
Okay. Well, actually, the way that our committees are set up, only one AMAC
yeah.
member is
Right.
on the committee.
Right.
And they find other people that are interested in discussing it and planning it, but they shouldn't be people that want to produce the item.
Right.
Because by definition, they're omitted from the competition. So, okay, how about Beth and Kelly? Both kind of talk to people and see what excites people and what they think might be appropriate for this, and we'll revisit it in January.
Okay.
Okay. So moving right ahead, we're to announcements and other business. I do have a couple of things under that. First of all, it has occurred to me that during the next year, it would be time to be putting together an RFP for a new poet laureate. I personally feel that our poet laureate has been kind of cheated this year, that she hasn't been able to do things that she had planned to do. She has done some things. I think she's done an amazing job of finding ways to reach out with poetry in a time that's open the discussion, and there's no big rush on it. You can think about this along with thinking about ideas for a key to the city. But think about the possibility of reassigning her for 22 as well. So her term really is kind of COVID plus a year without COVID, because she still is not going to be able to do the things that she had planned. It really doesn't make any difference in terms of the budgeting or anything. I just feel that she hasn't had the opportunity to do what she really wanted to do. Thoughts?
I think that's appropriate. I think that's a good idea.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I fully support that right now. We don't need to think about it any longer.
Well, we won't put it in the form of a formal motion yet. I need to talk to the mayor and get his input in that as well. And I have mentioned it to Wendy because I didn't want to suggest it if she was going to say, well, I don't want to do that. So her answer was, I will serve at the will of the Arts Commission. How was that? So I thought that was very appropriate for an answer. I also have one other thing. Anything else on the poet laureate? One other item under other. And that is in January, we ordinarily take a look at officers. So once again, I'm asking you if anyone would like to have an office, especially if it's like your last year on the commission before you have to go off for a year. Or last couple of years, So our officers are chair, vice chair, and secretary. So if anybody would like to have one of those positions, please let me know. And then I think what we'll do is in January, have a slate which is presented and then vote on it officially in February. Sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything anybody else has to bring before us or to talk about? Or I love Zoom meetings. I've become very used to them. They're the only people I see. Okay.
Same.
Jeff, were you saying something, Jeff?
No, I'm just muttering to myself. I do that days.
Well, I do that a lot. Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn? No? We
I
just,
motion to adjourn.
Beth, is there a second?
I'll second.
Scott seconds. And our next meeting is January 3rd, 2021.
January 13th.
13th, what'd I say?
3rd.